Okay, should the FA Cup semi-finals return to neutral venues? Now, for many years now, we've seen the semi-finals, both semi-finals of the FA Cup played at Wembley. In the early years of the new Wembley, that made some logical financial sense. They wanted to obviously pay off the stadium. The FA have done that years ago. The stadium is fully paid off now. Um, and the empty seats in recent years, COVID notwithstanding, even before the pandemic, it's becoming more and more noticeable. It's becoming more and more noticeable as each season passes. When it comes to the semi-finals, there's a lot of empty seats. Let's not kid ourselves. There's a lot of empty seats. There were last season, both semi-finals. The attendances weren't particularly great. I'm not beating any punches around that. It was very noticeable in the Brighton semi-final. Very, very noticeable the amount of empty seats. It was very plain and obvious that that stadium was not sold out. Now, there is a thing called paid attendance and actual attendance, and of course that's where the corporate tier, that central tier, gets regularly criticised. Is a lot of the corporates who get given tickets, so sponsors of the teams and the competition, they get given tickets. Those companies will give tickets to their employees, and it's up to the employees whether they want to go and take in a game. So those tickets have technically been given away, and they're classed as part of the paid attendance. The actual attendance is something else entirely. Now, Wembley's also been criticised for the Rugby League Challenge Cup final and how bad the attendances have been there since about 2017, 2018, and they've been pretty poor for the last 5-6 years. So that's a regular criticism that the RFL has to face. They're contracted to Wembley until 2027. They will be reviewing their contract in 2 years' time. Now, the problem the FA has is they're asset rich, so St George's Park, for example, and obviously Wembley and some other facilities that they have, they're very cash poor. So they've got a lot of assets, not a lot of spare cash floating around, which is a problem, which is one of the reasons why they continue to have the FA Cup semi-finals at Wembley. It's another reason why the NFL continues to use Wembley as one of the two stadiums in London, even though Spurs have rebuilt White Hart Lane into the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which is always going to be White Hart Lane to me. They have 2 of the 3 London games now. Wembley still has that one game out of the 3. That was another reason why they kept encouraging the NFL to not only come back, but to expand their London series. It makes the FA some money. When Spurs were rebuilding White Hart Lane, they were anchor tenants at Wembley. Again, that makes the FA money because they don't have a lot of spare cash to hand. They have the big asset, they don't have any money. Now, the FA were criticised when they attempted to sell Wembley back in 2018 to Saeed Khan. That went down like, well, a sack of shit. And then when they were valuing it at half the value of what the stadium actually is, that didn't go down well either because they were trying to do a quick sale. Now, a lot's changed since then. We've obviously had the pandemic, but now we've got the cost of living crisis and inflation being much higher than what it was prior. And so fans have less money in their pockets to buy tickets, and that's where Club Wembley gets criticised. We never had these problems with the neutral venues. Never had them. So as a kid growing up, Hillsborough and Villa Park were basically the 2 neutral venues used quite often. Not always, but quite often. And what was very noticeable was when England couldn't use Wembley because it was being rebuilt and they took games around the country, attendances were fantastic. Why can't the FA do that with the semi-finals where they rotate it year on year what stadiums they use? Now, obviously, there's got to be a minimum capacity for a stadium. It's got to be, obviously, a UEFA international standard, I would have thought. We have quite a few of those stadiums floating around. Let's not kid ourselves, all the way from St James's Park to many stadiums in London to stadiums on the south coast. We have St Mary's, that's a pretty decent stadium. International football's been played there. Not the biggest of the stadiums, but the England national side have played there before. It's quite a decent stadium. We've got Old Trafford. We've got Anfield. We've got, well, Goodison will be replaced with this new stadium in Liverpool. Potential for using either Anfield or the new Everton Stadium once Goodison is replaced. You've got the Etihad, you've got, as I say, St James's Park, the Stadium of Light, the Riverside in the northeast. There are a lot of stadiums that the FA could use. We have obviously got Villa Park, which is synonymous with the old FA Cup semi-finals as one of the neutral venues. And many, many semi-finals were played there. So I do find it very, very interesting that the FA is continuing to stick to the semi-finals at Wembley for the foreseeable future, but the empty seats are starting to tell. Even when the final was being played in Cardiff, when Wembley was being rebuilt, they still had that neutral venue aspect. Now, I could, as I say, I could understand in the early years of the new Wembley wanting to recoup some money, help pay off the stadium. But as I say, the stadium got paid off years ago. So there is no incentive, I would have thought, in that sense, to keep it there. But then Club Wembley comes in, their ticketing on, and that's been regularly criticised. And then you've got actual and paid attendance. Now, paid attendance is all the tickets that get sold, and that includes the corporates. And then there's actual attendance of fans who actually turn up. Um, and it's the same argument we've had with the Rugby League Challenge Cup final. The RFL have shot themselves in the foot for at least another 2 years before they review whether they extend past 2027. And the RFL have been regularly criticised for continuing to have the Challenge Cup final at Wembley with ever diminishing attendances and lesser crowds year on year. This year's Challenge Cup final was embarrassing, the turnout, absolutely embarrassing. And there were some unfortunate incidents on the M1 that did impact fans. There was a tragic accident, but even notwithstanding that, the attendance, there would still be a third of the stadium at least empty. So, I mean, how much longer can this continue? Obviously, we've seen in recent years, fan protest movements have gained traction for a variety of issues, and you know, the governing bodies are sort of feeling the wrath of fans' discontent. There is a growing, disconnection between fans and the powers that be. It doesn't matter if it's the FA, the Premier League, the Football League, UEFA, FIFA. There is a growing discontent between the fan bases and the FA. There's a lot happening where they say there's too much money in the game. Maybe making a little less could be better. Less is more. But I remember the semi-finals being at neutral grounds and the attendances not being an issue. There was never any discussion in the media. Oh, the attendance is lacking at Villa Park today, or Hillsborough, or insert other stadium here, whoever other stadium they were using. The attendances were always really, really good, and that's an ongoing theme that we've had now for many, many years. Is take the semi-finals out of Wembley. I think initially having them there was a good idea to help pay off the stadium. The stadium's being paid off, but the issue the FA has, and I will stress this before I leave, asset rich, cash poor. So until the FA can figure out a cash flow situation that improves their finances to a decent enough level, I think we're stuck, whether we like it or not. But I would like to see the semi-finals go back to neutral grounds. But it'd be interesting to see what you guys think on the issue. It's a it's an ongoing topic every season. And as I said last season in the FA Cup semi-finals, they weren't sellouts. There were a lot of empty seats. It was very, very noticeable watching at home when you see the cameras placed in certain locations to avoid those empty seats. But then another camera angle, you can't hide it when it's clear and obvious that whole rows haven't been taken up. There's empty seats dotted all around. It was very, very noticeable in this last season. But I want to see your thoughts on it. It'd be very, very interesting. And place your thoughts in the comment section below. It'd be very interesting what you guys have to say. But from me for now, it's goodbye from me. Thank you very much for watching. Place a like and subscribe if you like the content you see. And I'll have some more content for you very, very soon.